Ukraine claims Russia did it, but an unnamed U.S. official says it did not. Talking about the intercontinental ballistic missile Ukraine claims was fired by Russia into the country in response to the Ukrainian attacks earlier this week using U.S. and U.K. missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in his usual nightly address, said the country was attacked with a new Russian rocket that is the characteristics of an intercontinental ballistic missile, a claim U.S. officials dispute. Mr. Zelensky says investigations into the attacks and weapons are underway, indicating there is suspicion that the Russian president is using Ukraine as a training ground. ICBMs known to North Korea are designed to deliver nuclear warheads, which can travel thousands of kilometers at high speed. However, if the accusations are correct, this would be the first time such a missile was used in combat, not just in the Ukraine war, but in history. Meanwhile, the Medical Rehabilitation Center has been damaged by Russian missile strikes in Dnipro. The roof of the center partially caved in and glass windows blown out, leaving debris scattered around the rooms. According to a statement from the Ukrainian Air Force, the Russian missile attack also targeted enterprises and critical infrastructure in the central eastern city of Dnipro. The statement adds that Russia also fired a Kinzhal hypersonic missile and 7 Kh-101 cruise missiles, 6 of which were shot down in its attack. Well, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has been explaining the United States' position in its provision of anti-personnel landmines to Ukraine, stressing that landmines would be safer than ones currently being fabricated by Ukraine. He says Russia has adjusted its battle strategy to lead with dismounted forces in order to clear the way for mechanized forces, and that Ukraine needs the U.S. landmines to help slow down Russian advances. He also says Ukraine is currently fabricating her own, but the U.S. supply would be safer by offering options or to control when they self-detonate.
What we've seen most recently is because the Russians have been so unsuccessful in the way that they have been fighting, they've kind of changed their tactics a bit, and they don't lead with their mechanized forces anymore. They lead with dismounted forces who are able to close and do things to kind of pave the way for mechanized forces. So that's what the Ukrainians are seeing right now. And they have a need for things that can help slow down that effort on the part of the Russians. They're fabricating their own anti-personnel landmines right now. The landmines that we would look to provide them would be landmines that are not persistent. You know, we can control when they would self-activate, self-detonate, and that makes it far more safer eventually than the things that they are creating on their own.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Embassy in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, has been reopened, per what State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said on Wednesday, following a missile strike scare. The unusual warning had come a day after Ukraine used U.S. ATACM missiles to strike Russian territory, taking advantage of newly granted permission from the outgoing Biden administration on the war's 1,000th day. State officials say the embassy was closed out of an abundance of caution.
Saw the security alert that went out early this morning, overnight our time. The embassy put that alert out based on a possible threat of a significant attack on Kyiv, something that we take very seriously and led to the temporary change in posture at the embassy. We expect the embassy to return to normal operations tomorrow. I can't get into obviously the specifics of the threat, but it's something that we always monitor closely. We take the safety and security of our personnel it's very important to us. We take it extremely seriously, and that's what led to the change in posture today, and we expect it to resume normal operations.
As for Ukraine's neighbor to the northwest, the United States has opened a new air defense base in Poland an event the country's president says shows it is a secure member of NATO. Situated in the town of Rediskovo, near the Baltic coast, the base has been in the works since the 2000s. The Kremlin on Wednesday called the base a bid to contain Russia by moving American military infrastructure nearer its borders. Military sources say the system in Poland can now only be used against missiles fired from the Middle East, and the radar would need a change in direction to intercept projectiles from Russia, a complex procedure entailing a change of policy. There's more from Russia as the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova says a new U.S. ballistic missile defense base in Poland's north will lead to an increase in the overall level of nuclear danger and is on a Russian targeting list for potential destruction if necessary. She further stated, this leads to undermining strategic stability, increasing strategic risks, and as a result, to an increase in the overall level of nuclear danger. The U.S. base in Redzikovo is part of a broader NATO missile shield dubbed Aegis Ashore, which the alliance says can intercept short to intermediate range ballistic missiles. Zakharova says that given the nature and level of threats posed by such Western military facilities, the missile defense base in Poland has long been added to the list of priority targets for potential destruction, which, if necessary, can be executed with a wide range of advanced weapons. Let's bring in the VOA's Miroslava Gongadze. She's in Warsaw. Miroslava, thank you for joining us on the program today. This is a rather bold move by the United States. Even bolder is the fact that Poland welcomed the establishment of this base, albeit this was happening in the 2000s, but now it's ready, and then there is a war in Europe. But it does kind of seem like the government is purposely poking Russia to take action against a NATO country, drawing it into another war.
It's hard to say they are poking or not, or Russian is just have aggressive posture in the last at least 3 years, but in Ukraine for the last 10 years. You have to you mentioned correctly that this base was in plan and was starting to be built long time ago, and back then Russia was not even as seen as an aggressor state on the NATO documents. So back then, this base was supposed to intercept and destroy a ballistic missile from Iran. And basically, that base was built through the years, and only now the base was finally finished. And yes, we have to admit that since Russia started in Ukraine, now this missile base can be used against any possible threats from Russia. As you correctly mentioned at the top of the program, today in Ukraine, Russia used some kind of missiles. We are not clear what kind. It was mid-range or was a ballistic intercontinental. Right now, the officials are trying to confirm this information, but this clearly for Poland is very important to have this kind of base to be defended, and they were not expecting that they would have to defend themselves from that side. But apparently, at this stage of the threats in Europe, it's very important for Poland to have this base.
It is. And has President Andrzej Duda responded in any way to Russia's claims of provocation by the United States?
The Russian claims are not new again. The first time Russia said that this base would be a target a long time ago when the agreement between the United States and Poland was signed, and I have to say that Polish people in this small town back then when the agreement was signed and when they started building the base were against the base. They were protesting. It was a very controversial move. However, as Foreign Minister of Poland explained, that he was the one who signed this agreement with the United States, and he pushed United States to agree in the agreement that this base would not only defend the bigger state as the United States, but it will defend Poland as well. And as it appeared, it was a right move for the Poland. And President Duda is saying. He is saying that it's very important that Poland would be a partner for United States, and these two European NATO countries, and Poland in particular, and the United States are a pillar of defending European Euro-Atlantic alliance in this stage of the threats in the world.
Does Poland see this base as some protection for itself against an event of a Russian attack?
Possible. Again, the experts say that it would have to be some kind of technical process has to be made, or correction has to be made on the military particulars on the base. However, it looks like that Polish military is treating this base as a defensive mechanism for possible threats from Russia as well.
Can we also ask why Poland agreed in the first place for this base to be located in the country, and somehow so close, I would say, strategically placed between Ukraine and Russia?
Actually, the base is very strategically placed near Kaliningrad, near Russian border. The region where the base is very close to Russian border, that enclave in Poland. However, this base was planned a long time ago again, and it was all correlated between base in Germany, base in Romania, and in Turkey. It's a very it's a cohesive special operation that has to protect from any ballistic missile strike. So I'm not sure how exactly the decision to build that base on that particular place was made. However, as we know, that town had a military base a long time ago, even during World War II there. So it was probably a logical step to build this base in that particular town.
Miroslava, I see that European leaders, at least their foreign ministers, have been holding meetings on the sidelines with Ukraine top of the agenda. The fear, of course, is that U.S. could stop military spending, military aid to Ukraine, as well as, the UK says it will not. But, some are siding with Ukraine as the countries weigh their risks and the benefits. Where does Poland stand?
Poland actually hosted a day ago. Poland hosted 5 foreign ministers from 5 biggest states in Europe, and they signed a memorandum that all the European states would have to increase their military spending to invest in the technology and reconfiguring their military. Experts say that European NATO alliance, European countries would have to double their investment in military development if they want to meet the current challenges that Russia in Ukraine. And Poland in particular actually is a leader in that spending. Poland spent 4.7% of its GDP today, and they are trying to show the example for other leaders, for other countries, to actually about the need of spending. Actually, with this military base that we are talking about today, Poland would become one of the biggest military country, the strongest military in Europe.
Just before you go, Miroslava, just wondering if Poland has been caught up in this frenzy by European countries to cushion up their militaries in the event of a Russian nuclear attack, which had been the propagandaed, I believe, earlier this week when Ukraine went ahead to fire those U.S. long-range missiles into Russia, and then also fired the UK shadow missiles into Russia yesterday.
I mean, Poland was very supportive, and we have to understand that this that Ukraine fired this missile. It was a reflection of North Korean military being forced to fight in Russia against Ukraine, and Ukraine were asking long-range missile used for a long period of time, not for months, for years, from the start of the war. And Ukraine believes that firing different logistics spot that where Russia is putting their military together is the legitimate target. So it's hard to say that this was exact correlation of events as you presented. But right now, Poland and other, specifically Baltic states, are really supporting Ukraine because they understand that if Ukraine will lose this war, they will be the next, and that's for them it's clear.
Miroslava, thank you again. The VOA's Eastern Europe Bureau Chief, thank you for joining us on The World today.
You're welcome.